Digitalboost.co.nz has helped thousands of businesses harness the power of digital. But how do you use it? Well, Brett uses it to keep his website as secure as his locksmith company. Ross uses it to open new doors for his custom caskets.
I'm fearing a new business.
Mina uses it to stay up to date with the latest online trends. Praveen uses it to spend less time at work and more time with his daughter.
Okay, so hi, it's Emma here from Digital Boost. I am replacing Anna Mari today as her power has been cut off. So it's been a bit of a wild morning here at Digital Boost. Thank you so much, Tom, for popping in. My name's Emma. I'm going to be available on the chat, but I am going to hand it over to Tom to do his thing.
Thank you so much, Emma, for handing that over. And yeah, it has been a bit of a crazy morning for everybody. And let's face it, the last few years have been crazy for everyone. And so it's kind of, we're almost used to things are going to be crazy, and that's okay. And that's why it's important to check in with yourself and to check in with LinkedIn, which is what we're going to talk about today. And hopefully everybody can see my screen. If not, that's okay too. But so I'm Tom Roxham, and what I do is I help people start conversations. And one of the ways I help people start conversations is LinkedIn. What I want to start off with is just a little bit of a story right now. So the last couple of months, I've thought to myself, what am I doing on LinkedIn? Like, why am I on here? Do I want to do content? I'm getting frustrated with content. What can I really do? So I had to stop myself to think, where am I going with this? And right now, I'm really thinking about this, and I'm writing down a bunch of different ideas, and I'm jotting things down, and I'm chucking some things out, and I'm starting other things over, and thinking, well, what can I do differently? Do I go chat GPT to create content, or do I get a ghostwriter, or do I just not do content, or is there a million different things that I can do? So I understand what you're going through, and I understand what a lot of people are going through, where it's at, I don't know, I'm overwhelmed, and that's okay. It's okay to be thinking, well, I don't know where I'm going with this. And so one of the ways that I use it is to help me with networking offline. So as an example, I went to Christchurch, New Zealand last year, and it's the second time that I've gone there. And I didn't even get into the door 5 feet before I had people coming up to talk to me. And the way that worked was getting in touch with the organizer, and they were tagging me on all the different posts. So people were seeing me on a regular basis and being like, well, who's this Tom guy that's popping up on all these events? And so this is what I do to help me with other areas, create some content, engage with other people, and that's where we go. So one of the most important things to think about when it comes to LinkedIn is what you want to do, where you want to go with this. And remember, it's about starting conversations with people. It's called social media, and it's social media for a reason. So always remember that you're being social on there. So if you have access to the chat, what I would like to know from people is, if you could go anywhere, where would you go and what would you do? I like to ask people this question. And yes, I like to ask people this question when they're on LinkedIn, just to get to know people. Because that's one of the key elements of LinkedIn, is getting to know people. Let's go beyond the, do you work in accounting, or do you work here? Where do you live? Let's talk to people and find out a little bit about who they are, what they're about. Get them talking about different aspects, especially if you're in the DMs or if you're in a comment section. Get people to talk about different elements. So I always like to ask this question, and if I could go anywhere right now, I would definitely go anywhere that I could get out of this rain. All right. So the other thing I would like to know from people is just what you are looking forward to or expect to get out of today. It's always really good to know what people expect to get. Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about why you're online, some personal branding, profile overviews. Really important to grow your online communities and some content creation. Oh, just talking a little briefly about some user numbers. There's over 830 million users that are on LinkedIn, and it is growing more and more. So it's really good to think about just how many people are on there. Now, LinkedIn has been around since the early days, but it just took a long time for it to start to grow compared to something like TikTok, where within very little time it's surpassed LinkedIn. And so it's good to think about just how many people are really on there. And I think in New Zealand, there's roughly 2 million or so, 2.2 million that are on there now. So country of 5 million, over almost half the population is on there. That's a good market. And it's a market that people might be missing out on because they're not thinking about that key area. I just want to check the chat here. Did you? And so some people would like to go to the UK, or they would like to go on an island escape. That would be perfect right now.
Tom, I feel that. I would love to be on an island escape right now.
Tahiti. I'd like to get over the hump of being nervous and putting myself out. I'm going to talk a little bit about that too. I do. Bahamas would be great. So I'm originally from Canada, if you haven't heard the accent yet, and I would love to be back home on the ski hill somewhere. And for me, it doesn't matter how cold it is. I love wintertime. Not this kind of winter. Like, I like the cold and the snow and the miserable snow. So let's talk a little bit about being nervous and putting yourself out there on social media. Sometimes what you need to do is to amp yourself up. Okay, I've got 10 minutes. Now I'm going to go on there. And what I'm going to talk about in a minute is going to really help you out with this. But to think about, like, well, why am I on there? And that can start to help you to put yourself out there a little bit more. I get nervous about this. Like right now, for me, this is a little bit nerve-wracking because I can't see people's faces. And I love to be able to see people, especially when I'm doing a presentation. It's that because I get that feedback then. And when you're not getting that feedback, you're like, can people hear me? Can they see me? Do I look funny? And what's important to know is we all have insecurities. Every single person has some insecurities, but we all have a beautiful story too. Everyone here has one, and we all want to hear it. We want to know who you are and what you're about, because you do have an amazing story. You might not think it, but I can guarantee you do. And some of the very things that you know in your life, someone else would pay a fortune for. And you might think, well, that doesn't sound right. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But some people would pay a lot of money for that very piece of knowledge that you have. We all have different upbringings, different knowledge, different skills. I help people with networking. I help people on LinkedIn. These are skills that I had to get myself. I used to work in accounting. Those are some of the skills that I have. Now, some people might, I don't want accounting. And as you can tell, I love presenting. I love facilitating. I love talking in front of people. This is a skill for me. I know someone else would pay a lot of money for that skill. So it's good to think about who you are and what you're about. I'm just going to check the chat real quick here. I was nervous today about hosting today, and I do think, and Emma, you're doing a fantastic job, so don't you worry about that.
I just think it's funny, Tom, because people say that they're nervous about social, and often, because I do this type of thing on social media myself, but I still get nervous every single time. It's good to use the energy of nerves.
Yes, like nervous, scared, and excitement are that same feeling. It's how we react to it. And so if you can pump yourself up a little bit before, like go listen to some music or do some meditation or do something that's going to help you out, that will help you out on when you're doing these different things. And fear is a beautiful thing. I talk a lot about fear and vulnerability on my LinkedIn. It's a little scary talking about that, but it's fantastic to go and do it. It will really help you out. Doing things that are scary is fantastic. That's a sign of growing. And it's good to put yourself into some of those scary situations, depending on how scary we're talking about.
Yeah. It does feel more authentic as well, doesn't it?
Yes, and this is something that a lot of people love to see on LinkedIn is being authentic, being who you are, being what you're about. Because I could just put on there, here's 5 tips for networking, or here's 5 tips for LinkedIn, and do that every single day. And sure, some people will like it, but they want to hear the stories and behind you and what you're about. People work with me because of how they feel after they've come from a coaching session with me or a workshop with me, or when they've come to one of my networking events. That's why they come to work with me, not just because I have the knowledge, but because I make people feel good. And that will make a difference.
Absolutely.
So I hope to understand the purpose of LinkedIn more and how to use its tool to share what I have to offer most efficiently. A lot of this will come back to your why, on why you're on LinkedIn. So the purpose of LinkedIn can be very different for so many other people. It really depends on where you are. When I was a job seeker, I used it very differently from how I do it now, because now I'm actually, like, I use it as a bridge for going to networking events. I also use it as for my business. And when I was a stay-at-home dad, this was my best way of going to networking, was being able to be on here. So different people will use it for different areas. Some people will put their services out there. Some people want it just for networking, getting information. It really depends on why you're on there, which is what we're going to talk about in just a minute. I'm not sure nervousness is the right word. I just don't want the trolling or negative feedback. You know what? That's exactly it. A lot of people are worried about trolls that are on LinkedIn or on any social media platform. One of the good things about LinkedIn, though, is you're in behind a profile. So it's my business, it's my face, it's my company, it's the schools that I went to, it's the companies that I work for or am working for. And so you do see some negativity, and you do see some trolls that are on there, and you do unfortunately see some creepy people that are on there. For the most part, most people are on there because they're trying to run a business, or they need help. They're looking for work. And so most people won't be negative. And if you find someone is being negative, you can block them. You can ignore them. What I like to do is, if I see some negative comments, I'll leave that for 24 hours before I go and respond to it, especially if I think they're not in the right place. They're in a really bad mood. So it's a good way to go and do it then. And so if you take a platform like TikTok or Twitter, I can hide behind any username. So I can be Digital Boost 123 and be negative towards people. On LinkedIn, you see my name, you see my face, you see the company I have. If I start being really negative on there, how's that going to go for my company? Okay. I'm going to just skip ahead, not skip ahead. I'm going to start going to here, because if you can't tell by now, I can be a little bit of a chatter. So something to think about when it comes to social media is, these are some of the ones that are on my phone. And there's so many different platforms that are out there, and it's a matter of what you're using and why you want to use it. So as an example here, Tasty is on there, which is just recipes. But I can go and talk to other people about these recipes and do different things like that. I just want the recipe. That's all I want. I don't want to be connecting with other people. The Score, which is sports, I don't get to see my Canadian sports here, so I like to keep up. But there is a chat feature, and the last thing I want to be doing is chatting to people about sports. I just want to know what the scores are. So it's just really good to think about how many different platforms are on there, why you're on there, which is where we finally come to this. Why am I online? Think about why you're on LinkedIn. Go take a piece of paper, take your phone, your laptop, anything, and just start to write down all the reasons why you're on there. I'm on there to network. It's a way for me to get my business. It also helps me with being able to go to networking events. That's why I'm on there. The last couple of years, I was a stay-at-home dad. So this is the main way I was able to do it. COVID, right? Networking events were really running. So this is the way I was able to do different elements of networking. Think about why you're on LinkedIn. A lot of people have struggled with creating content, commenting, because they don't know why they're on LinkedIn. That's going to make the difference for you. Think about why you're on LinkedIn, and that will really help you. 3 months down the line, you might want to go back to this very question and think, why am I on here again? Like, I've been on LinkedIn for several years now, very active the last 2-3 years, and now I'm rethinking why I'm on there myself and restructuring so many different elements. So a lot of the content that I'm putting out there is because it's not because it partially to help everyone, but it's also because I'm rethinking the very content I'm putting out and rebuilding my own profile, rebuilding my own content and commenting strategy. So it's, for me, it's that exciting time of why am I on here and how can I do things differently? So what content do you want to see? This is important for the people that you're following. If, let's say, you don't like to watch videos, but I know you do it, so come watch mine. They can be pretty fun. But if you like to watch videos all the time, you could just be on TikTok. If you don't like to write, don't write. And if you don't want to read these massive paragraphs, I saw someone who put a carousel this morning. It was 99 slides long. That should be about 2 or 3 days worth of content. Like, it's no. When I do carousels, I do 7 to 10 slides typically. It's just way too much. So if you're seeing people who are creating lots of content and it's not the content you want to see, you can unfollow them or you can disconnect from them or do something. The feed that you're getting, like, think about what you want to see in terms of the type of content itself and this content that's going to help you or not. Okay. Whether you think you have a brand or not, we all have a personal brand. Now, often we just think about McDonald's and Pepsi and Coke, but it's more than that. It's more than just a logo or a slogan. Now, I'm not wearing my colors today, but typically I do wear a pink shirt. A lot of my images and carousels will have pink in the background. Now, that's part of my brand, but that's not the important part. How you make people feel. When you're not around, that's part of your brand. As you're commenting and the energy you're putting out there, that's part of your brand. Now, I have a lovely mustache, and that is part of my brand, but that's only a small part. People don't care about the mustache, but I do talk about it all the time because I want people to think about that and recognize it. And when they're at networking events, they're looking for the guy with the mustache, but it's only a small part. How I make people feel, that's my brand. So when you're not around, that's about your branding. So a lot of people spend a lot of time on, oh, what colors am I going to use? Or I need a logo or I need a slogan. And that's not as important as making people feel good, making people want to come to you. That will be the difference that it's going to be. So really think about how you're making people feel. So if you're not in the right mindset and everything is going horrible, I don't want to do this today, this is just miserable, I'm miserable, it might not be a good time to go into social media, because maybe you'll do some trolling, or maybe it'll be you're letting some things out that you don't want to let out. So I went to comment on a friend's post the other day just saying, I'm not happy with content right now, I don't know what I'm doing. And then I had someone else pitch to me and I thought, no, I don't want that energy going out there. And I know when at times where I haven't been very happy with things, and then I realize I'm just scrolling through everything, and I'm not actively engaged as I would like to be. Compares to when I'm in that good mood where I'm like, oh, I want to network, I want to connect with people, I want to engage with more people. That will help you. So think about the energy that you're giving off, and that will be part of your brand. I could probably spend a whole day just talking about different elements of branding, but we don't have time for that. So always complete your profile. This needs to be one of the first things you need to do. And you might go back to it again and again and again. But if I see someone's profile and they go to connect with me, and this is what I see, I might not want to connect with them. And if I see that they don't create any content, they never comment, I don't know if I'm going to connect with them or not. When I was a job seeker, this is not something I would do. I would end up telling people, like, even if you are a job seeker, like, put in looking for accounting roles, looking for marketing roles, put in the very job title that you want, or the profession that you want to get into. But if all you do is put in there looking for new opportunity, that doesn't mean anything. It can mean a billion different things. So it's something really important to think about. I had jumped on a call with someone. He moved from Auckland to Wellington. And then I said to him, you need to change where you're living. Within 24 hours, he had a recruiter call him just from changing where he was living. That made the difference for him. But I'll show you what my profile looks like, although I think it's even tweaked since here. But you see this great big, so you see the blue circle, and then in behind you see the nice big rectangle. A lot of people don't use it, or they put on a stock photo. It's a wasted space, and you'll see what mine looks like in just a few moments. But what I really want to get to you is that you need to complete your profile, and there's a lot of really neat things that are coming out. So I always take a look to see, does someone have any activity? If they have no activity, I might not connect with them. Depends on a few different elements. And so when I'm talking about activity, I'm talking about posts and whether they're liking and commenting and stuff. I'm not saying that I won't connect to you if you've never commented or never posted or anything, but I'm just saying it's something that I do look at. This is also how I get rid of some scammers and the such. Now, this is what a more completed profile looks like. And this is just the top half. And if you take a look at it, it looks like a business card, a very big business card, but it looks more of that business card kind of feel. So today's connection is tomorrow's opportunity. This is something I tell people about all of the time. And this is my favorite saying, because it really is. But right off the bat, when people see this, they're seeing my picture, and that picture has been adjusted since. Now I have a new one with a pink background because I want to change things up. But the banner is still there. The banner is talking about the book that I have. I run workshops. I do networking. So it's giving you an idea of what I do already. I also have a call to action there. Direct message me to discover more. So as soon as you come to my profile, you see my banner. I've given you some information about who I am, what I'm about, and I'm giving you a call to action. As we scroll down here a little bit more, beside my name, you see the microphone that's on here. The microphone that's on here, it has, you can record from your phone for 10 seconds. Tom, it's not a hard name to pronounce, but I utilize those full 10 seconds. In behind the profile picture, which I can't show you now, there's a video. I can't remember if it's 20 or 30 seconds long, but it's another way of showcasing who you are and getting your personality out there. Because I know my personality comes out more like this than it does just when I'm writing.
Tom, can I ask you just to elaborate a little bit more on what a call to action is? So I'm part of the support team, and we often get a lot of people who are creating content, and this covers websites, Instagram, as well as LinkedIn, who ask, what is a call to action and how can I use it? So if you could talk a little bit more about that, would be awesome. Yeah,
for sure. So, and I'll give you an example right near the end of it as well, too, for some posts. But the call to action here, just the direct message me to discover more. And what that's really doing is I'm telling people, this is what I want you to do. This is where I want you to go. So sometimes on websites, you might see sign up for my newsletter now, or click here for your free gift. And so
that's a great example.
Yeah, it's that, what do you want people to do, or where do you want people to go when they're on your website, when they're on your profile, or when they're when they see your content? Always think about where you want people to go. Good. Okay.
Really good.
Yeah. And so what's funny is so this is my whole entire headline. And people kind of joke that like if they're people that are employed versus self-employed, employed, you'll just see like accountant or chartered accountant or manager. And then someone who's self-employed will have this great big novel of different things that are on there. I tweak this every now and then. Now, one of the important parts with this headline, and mine being help you to start conversations anywhere, only the first, I believe, 20 characters, maybe even less, are visible when you comment. I'm going to show you a little bit about this later on. But that's really important to think about. What do you want people to see when they come to your profile and see your headline? Another call to action that I have here is book a call to connect today. So anybody that wants to have a chat with me, they can book a call with me, and that'll take them to my calendar. Oh man, there's so many things that I'm seeing here of these new features that are coming out, but I won't be able to go through all of this right now. But this is just the headline alone and the banner and the picture. So there's a lot more other aspects that are out there. So always take a look at other people's profiles and see what's out there, but make sure you complete everything. The other thing you can do is you can edit your URL, and you can have it custom to what you want to. I just have mine as Tom Broxham, but I see some people put their branding name or other elements of that as well too. Most people have the linkedin.com, Tom Broxham 321AJ, and it's good to get rid of that part and just have your name in there. Okay. Featured section. This is an area that a lot of people don't use in your profile. What some people do is they put their most liked content on there. They might put on their book. They might put on a featured workshop that they have coming out, a newsletter. So there's lots of different ways of being able to use the featured section. The first three are visible. If you're on mobile, I believe it's the first one or two, but really good to think about using the featured section to your advantage. Just going to pop up in the chat here for a quick second. I would elaborate on the top half of the profile a little bit more, but if you come to my profile and send me a message, I can elaborate on that a little bit more. I just want to make sure I can get through some of the other big elements that can really help people out, okay? Let me close that off. So how does commenting help you? And this is one of the key elements that people really need to do. This is going to attract your community. And that's one of the big things that's there. You want people to come to your profile, make sure you're commenting. That it's going to get people to come onto your profile, onto your content, and it'll start attracting people. It's going to help you to stand out. It's going to help your company to grow, help you to grow in general. And it shows your authority and expertise. So as I went on here and I decided I'm the networking guy, within very little time, people knew I was the networking person. So they start to come see me, invite me to different events, different podcasts, because they knew I was the networking person because of being on LinkedIn and creating content. So it's really important to find who you want to find on there. And there's some neat features that are in here, which I can't talk about right now, unfortunately. But and I'm going to be creating some content just around that. But make sure you're finding the people that you need to find. Some people might want to use Sales Navigator. Most people don't need to go and use that though. But the person who I said who within 24 hours they got a call, this is what happened. People were just searching for his area of expertise, where he lived. That's why it's important to complete your profile as well too. So hashtags are good to use whenever you're creating content. 3 to 5 is the rule to use. Don't use more than that. What I like to do is take a look to see how many people are using the hashtag to begin with, and I want to see how old the content is. So if I see lots of people are using it, but the last post was a few years ago, it might not be worthwhile. And so what I like to do for the 5 different hashtags as I'm creating content, one will be my personalized one, which is No Phonies Allowed. That was the name of a book I wrote for LinkedIn. And then I usually use networking tips, and a few other areas like that. If I take a look at social media, 20 million people are using that one. So if I use that as for one of my pieces of content, chances are most people won't be able to go and see it. Sometimes it's better to use a personalized one or two with larger audiences around the 100,000 mark, another one say around the 50,000 mark, and then another one where it's a little bit more niche down. I know some platforms, they use 20 or 30 different hashtags on their content. If you're using that much, it looks spammy and most people will not be interested in it. So as I mentioned earlier, 220 characters. So I said less than that, but the first 40 to 50 characters are seen. So every single time I go and comment, people see this first little bit of "wanna love networking," direct message me. So it's really good to think about what you want people to see when they're looking at your headline and you're beginning to comment. Personalized connection requests. It's always really good to do that, especially if I don't know who you are and I don't know what you're about. Don't sell. Just do never ever sell here. This is what we call a pitch slap, and it's one of the worst things you can do. PITCH, that is. And it's one of the worst things to do, because nobody wants to have a pitch come to them right off the bat as soon as you're connecting. But what's good to think about is this is a way of starting the conversation. So if someone sends this to me and be like, "Oh, I came to the Digital Boost Q&A. I thought it was fantastic." Now at least I know where you're coming from, and that will help us to start the conversation. So this was a monster comment that I left on someone else's post. You don't have to leave comments this big, but if you were, people would recognize you very quickly. The first 2 or 3 lines could be fantastic for a comment. I actually created about 4 or 5 pieces of content from this one comment that I made. So what you need to do when how can you make a good comment? Make sure you're supporting the post. Well, unless you don't agree with it, that's fine too. You can tag other people if it's relevant to them. Nothing worse than seeing someone tag 20 or 30 different people. Add value to the post. And that's what I did here. And if I just take a look near the bottom where it says, or where you see a couple of targets and bullseyes, this is what I do ideally. And I added to the post. So I gave a little bit of information and a little bit more help. Ask follow-up questions. This is a perfect time to get your questions answered. You have a question about LinkedIn, you have a question about marketing, copyright, or anything, ask it in the comment section. They'll respond to you, and you'll get those very answers you need for your own business. Give additional perspectives. That's always a good thing to do as well. So these are the rules that I usually stick to when it comes to commenting. Before I post or after I post, I like to engage with 5 to 10 other posts or spend 15 minutes. I like to say 15 minutes because some people say to me, "Well, I don't have a lot of time." You can find 15 minutes. Okay, if you can't find 15 minutes, spend 5. Just 5 minutes and try to engage with other people. I guarantee you that you can find at least 5 minutes in your day. It's probably going to take you at least 5 minutes to figure out the next Netflix show that you want to watch. You can spend that on LinkedIn. You can find that time. I can guarantee you. And especially if you know why you're on there, you're going to find, and you know who you want to target, or you know the people, the content you want to see, it's going to help you out with spending that few minutes. Sorry. If people engage with you, make sure you respond to their comments. People love it. And if you only have 3 or 4 comments, you respond, people see you responding, they're more likely to comment in the future. I'm just going to skip by this. These were some lovely comments people left on some networking events that I ran. So a few ways to grow your community. LinkedIn audio, really good way of being able to get your voice out there. And there are some incredible rooms on LinkedIn and other areas of business that can help you out with your own business on here as well too. This is one of the biggest ways of growing your community and getting yourself out there is commenting. Take those 10 or 15 minutes, spend them on LinkedIn, just engaging with other people. If you have to choose between creating content and engaging with other people, engage with other people and comment. That's going to help you out. Send people a message, and you can send an audio message or a video message. The audio messages are 1 minute, and the video you can send as long as you want, but don't send too long. I've had people connect with me, send me 5 1-minute long audio messages, and I didn't even want to listen to them. I've had people send me an 8-minute video to start. Not a good way to start. Nobody wants that. So these are the 5 main content types. You can entertain people, which is what I like to do, especially in videos. What we call edutainment. That's a little bit of education and entertainment, which a lot of people have done really, really well on LinkedIn because of doing the edutainment. You can do a little bit more personal, and you can do sales posts, but if every single time you do a sales post, people are going to lose interest in you real quick. And sales posts typically do not do very well on LinkedIn. If you can think of a different way of doing that sales post, you can do a lot better, but most of them don't do so well. So think about the kind of content type that you want to put out for yourself. Try to mix it up if you can. If you think, well, I'm not very funny, that's okay. That's all right. Personal goes well. I talk about vulnerability, and I talk about it on a regular basis because it does well. Not just because it does well, but people get to know who I am, what I'm about. And for me, that's really important. So I'll show you this a little bit more on the next slide, but the first 2 or 3 lines are going to be visible. So as you're scrolling through LinkedIn, you won't see the full post. You always have to click the See More button, which I'm going to show you in just a moment. But this is just one of the pieces of content you can create, written. And let me show you what the next one looks like. What's really important is the first few lines. If you get them right, then you're going to have people interested and they're going to want to see more. If you get them wrong, then people might not read the rest of it. And white space is your friend. The vast majority of people are using their mobiles when they're on LinkedIn. So think about that element. Like if I jammed this all into one paragraph, some people would just scroll past because they don't want to read that much at once. So this is a personal post that I did put up myself, but the first 2 lines are visible, and then you see the See More button. We want people to click that See More button. It tells LinkedIn and the LinkedIn algorithm that, hey, my content is good. People are clicking on it. Show it to more people. So it's really important to think about that. And this is just an image post, but 2 pieces of content already. You can have just straight written. You can do images. You do see a lot of selfie images right now on there. This is what's called a carousel. PowerPoint slide essentially is what it is. And I try to stick to them between 7 and 9. One of the good things about this is it takes up a lot of space on the mobile or on the computer, like as people are scrolling through. It's an easy way for people to catch their attention. This I do create on Canva as well. And Canva is fantastic for creating your marketing content, your marketing material on LinkedIn. This was just a really good comment, an example of a comment that I got from someone else. And this is just her responding to my post, but you don't have to spend this much time and effort creating engagement with other people. If you do, people will remember it though, and it's fine to use emojis as you can see on both of these, but you don't have to spend that much. The only thing I will mention though is if you do it this way, people will remember that more than just someone commenting, thanks for sharing, thanks for posting. Okay. A few other content types that are out there. GIFs. I like to create my own GIFs and I'll repurpose them from my videos. Articles. One of the good things about articles is if you write one up, I have seen some articles that were 3, 4, sometimes even 7 years old. And this is just a much, much longer piece of content. One of the beautiful things about it being evergreen, think about it as a blog post, but sometimes the Google search is finding those. So the piece of content that you write up today, chances are tomorrow nobody's going to see that. Article, someone may find that a few years down the line. I do LinkedIn Lives every now and then as well too. You won't have as many, sometimes you might not have as many people watching it, but it's a deeper connection when people do. Audio rooms, which I mentioned earlier. Newsletters, I'm not seeing as many people putting newsletters out now. Late, or it was early last year, finally everybody was able to get the access to put newsletters out, and you saw a lot, and then they dropped off almost as quickly, but it's a great piece of content to use though as well. You can do a thing called reposting, otherwise known as sharing. It's one of the worst things you can do. Nobody will look at it. I've only seen one repost in the entire time I've ever been on LinkedIn that did well. It outperformed the original post, but for the most part, nobody cares. So if you're reposting 10, 15 times in a day, nobody's going to notice that. And nobody's going to want to follow you. It will not help you out. The very bare minimum, if you're going to repost, put 2 or 3 lines of why you're reposting that. Especially, I see people repost mine. I'm like, why'd you share that? And because I legitimately want to know. So try not to repost. Doesn't go over very well. Commenting, one of the best things you can do, which you've heard from me several times throughout the last 40 minutes. So for a post idea, you could write on this very session today. What have you gotten out of it? What would you like to know more about? How did you think about me as the presenter? So those are some different things that you can think about for some content right now.
Should we open it up for a bit of a chat, Tom? A bit of a Q&A?
Yeah, we can certainly do that.
Cool. Maybe should I take the first question because I did write it in here. No, I just have to find it. Or if there's anything else that you would like to cover while I scroll through.
I think I have about 5 more slides, but that's okay.
What's this one? So actually, what I would like to ask you, and you're welcome to go through your more slides than that as well, but regarding the Q&A is, how did you decide that LinkedIn was the platform for you? So on our team, we get lots of people who are from different, whether it's coaching, whether it's their own business, personal brand, and they're often wondering what is the right platform for them. How did you decide that LinkedIn was going to be a main platform for you?
It's a really good question, and it's a question that you do need to ask for yourself. And for me, I first came onto LinkedIn, I think 2010. Wow. And yeah.
Expert.
And so, but at the time, I really didn't use it. Like, I was invited to join LinkedIn. I worked for a large corporation. People were sending me invites, and I'm like, all right. I put my title on there, profile, and that's all I did. Nothing else was on there. And I didn't touch it again for the next, I think, 5 years. I had no idea what I was going to do with it. Then I just knew how powerful of a platform it could be. And I started putting my videos out, and I thought, I want people to see me and for what I'm doing. And I'm like, I don't want to share it on Facebook. I know some of the people that are on there. I want to do a TEDx talk. I know some TEDx speakers are on there. I know some people that are looking for TED talkers are on there.
So a bit of a bit of research on how you see yourself and how you saw yourself moving forward and where you felt like you could fit in.
Yeah. And I knew the business community that was out there before I even got myself really in there. I just knew how powerful it was, and that opportunity that maybe that one person will see me and I can get that opportunity that I want. And then once you start to get, hey, I saw your video or I saw your content, and you're like, oh, okay, I am onto something here.
Yeah.
And then as you join into the community and you realize people are actually really friendly here. Like, this is amazing. It's not just boring, stuffy, stick your CV on and run away or just pushy salespeople. There's an incredible community on there.
Actually, I really enjoy LinkedIn as a platform, as a user as well. I always find it's quite a different energy than some of the other platforms. I love a bit of news, and I like that bit of information. And I think being able to personalize posts and talk about professional things it's a great place to do that. Absolutely.
And I started really heavily using it in 2020. Like, I was on it off and on, but then when all of a sudden we were all at home, like, well, I'm going to start using LinkedIn more. And it had changed a lot from the previous years that I was on there. I'm like, wow, this has really opened up.
Lisa says here she likes to call it where the grown-ups hang out. Which, I suppose it's true. But it's a good call, Lisa. And she also wants to know, do you use keywords in your profile?
So in my profile, and this has just recently come out, if you use creator mode, there's an opportunity to put 5 different hashtags in there. And up until now, it's been completely, totally useless. But now once you do a search, and there's at the very last part, there'll be this thing called all filters. And underneath the all filters, as you scroll through these different areas, you can put in there, who's following me? And you can put on talks about. There's a filter for talks about. And my hashtags that I use from creator mode are like networking tips. And I can look for other people who talk about networking tips. Up until now, you couldn't do that. And so now that's a way of being able to find those very people that you want. If you want to find the people talking about accounting, look for that, the all filters, and then talks about accounting. It's really, really fantastic feature, and probably one of my favorite features that's come out in the last few years.
Caroline here, sorry to cut you off on your slides, Tom, because you're getting all these questions in, so you're going to have to. Caroline asks, I have a book due to be published. How might I use LinkedIn to generate interest on that? And Jana's actually responded saying, do what she's learning to do, talk about your book while you wrote it. So what would you have to add to that as well?
Absolutely do that. Like, as you're going along with your book, like, and you're talking about, I had to find an editor, or I had to find a publisher, or I had to find this. Talk about some of the different elements of the book. So my hashtag, No Phonies Allowed, was the title of my book, and I leaked it months and months beforehand. And then when I told people what it was, they're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I love that hashtag idea. That's an awesome idea.
And what you could do is, 1 second here. Maybe one of your posts is just like this. Cover up the majority of your book cover, and then just slowly release that over time. Talk about when your book is going to come out. Talk about what is your book about. Talk about that, and just keep on giving little nibbles and nigglets of it every now and then. Just little pieces of it, and that will help, right?
Yeah, cool.
So the more you can talk about it, and the more you can give those little sneak previews of it, that will make a difference.
So let's have a look here. Someone's asked, could you please show us again the slide that showed what is visible when you come up on a search? Is that easy for you to do? Or we can maybe post that in the community group or something like that if that's harder for you to find.
I can post that, and like, so with what comes up when you search, I can post a couple of things on that, and what it'll come down to is what you're searching for, because what I'm searching for will come up very different from what you are. Because what will end up happening is, let's say, example, I'm looking for people who work in accounting. It's going to come up with some of my first degree connections, or it'll come up with New Zealand a little bit more. Compared to if I was living in Canada, that would come up with that a little bit more as well too. So it is a little bit difficult with that part of it.
I'm going to ask you another question.
Yep.
So within like good practice on Instagram or even Facebook is to go through and do a bit of scrolling. They say for about half an hour beforehand, go in and like and share and do your bits and pieces before you post to help improve engagement when you do post. Do you find that that works on LinkedIn?
It does, and it is a good thing to do. So in general, what I would do is, if I had half an hour to an hour, at least half an hour to an hour, spend the first 15 minutes engaging with other people. Now I'm going to go back and respond to any messages or any comments from my previous post. Then I'll post, and then I'll spend a little bit more time engaging with other people. Now I might have some people commenting on my post. Make sure you're responding to those comments as soon as you can.
Yes.
And I've seen some people who say it doesn't help it, and other people say like it does make a difference. I know it does make a difference. And the more you can do it, the better it is. The more you comment on other people's posts, the more you'll have, chances are you'll have more people commenting on your posts as well too.
Do you schedule your posts on LinkedIn, or do you also, because I know for me, if we're scheduling things on the other platforms, we'll still go and like bookmark that time aside to engage as well as have the scheduled post. Do you do that, or do you just natively post?
So I'm starting to use a scheduler, and I'm actually going to be sitting down to write down a bunch of content so I can schedule a little bit easier. But one of the things that LinkedIn has put out now in the last couple of months is a scheduler.
Awesome.
And I'm not sure how many posts you can do at once that way, but I'm starting to use that. I have two kids. I have a newborn and a 2.5-year-old.
You need to schedule that out.
So there's times where I'm like trying to post frantically. All of a sudden, the app closes on me. I've just lost a whole piece of content. I'm like, oh, I'm going to go cry in the corner now. And then my kid's still crying.
I think most of us understand that.
And so being able to schedule will help. And because you can do it on LinkedIn now, I really like that.
Awesome. Should I ask you one more thing about posting? I'm
Sure.
taking up all this time. Feel free, anyone else, to ask. Hi, Dean. Do you have a certain time that you like to post? And if you do, how did that time come about?
So the important thing is what's going to work for you. Now, you'll see a lot of people say post between 7 and 9 a.m. What time zone?
Yeah.
Where are your clients? Now, like I just said, I've got the 2.5-year-old and the newborn.
You just make it work.
Yeah, sometimes for me, I just make it work. But
yeah,
I've actually had times where I've been frustrated because my son's crying at me and I'm trying to get this post out because it needs to be out by this time, and it doesn't matter. It's good to be consistent, to be like, okay, I'm going to post 3 days a week. I want to post between this time. That's good to be able to go and do it, but you need to have it work for you. If you realize that every single time you're doing this, it's just frustrating yourself, don't do it. Maybe it's that lunchtime that's going to work for you. Maybe you know that a lot of your potential clients are on at 7 p.m. at night. Kids have gone to bed. You have half an hour to yourself. that might be the time that works for you. So think
Yeah.
about the time that's going to work for you the most. And just because this works at 7 to 9 a.m. for this person doesn't mean it'll work for you. But I know some people that are they will post at like 8:01, 8:02, and like it'll be 8:01 every single day that they post.
Wow. Yeah, I think that's really good advice and for posting on anything, and actually just good self-care as well.
Yeah.
In regards
Absolutely.
to that social media space and the pressure that we put on ourselves.
And we don't need to put that kind of pressure on ourselves. I've seen some people who, once they get a big enough community, it doesn't matter when they post. Doesn't matter if they post once a day, twice a day, they'll get the same kind of engagement. And
Yeah.
it just comes down to what's going to work best for you. If
Yeah,
you
and I
find
think
it,
you've
Yeah.
given the tips and tricks and that as well that can help that too. You're not just posting out into a cold environment. Now, Christelle is asking, don't you think it's easier and with much more future to do this, all the social interaction and other social media platforms like Instagram and Facebook have stories and buy now futures? Isn't it better for small businesses and LinkedIn? So that is probably, I'm gonna think that is she summarizing that Instagram, Facebook, and that is better advertising for small businesses than what LinkedIn is? But I think that you can talk about that, but I probably have my own thoughts on that as well.
So I don't know many people, actually, I don't know anybody who pays for advertisement on LinkedIn. All the advertisement they get really is through creating content and engaging with other people.
Well, that's awesome in itself, isn't it?
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
doesn't
it's not
cost
the
you a
same
thing.
on Facebook and Instagram, is it?
No. And I don't use, like, Facebook for me is just very, very personal. Instagram, I don't really use it because I I didn't like it that much myself.
Yeah. Cool. Now, Caroline's asked if we can see your last few slides, and I've probably gone over because I'm not like Anna Marie. I'll just keep on talking to you as well, Tom. Anna Marie's got it all organized, but you've got me filling in today. So do you want to just maybe quickly pop through those slides, and then we can maybe invite you into the community group as well to answer some more questions?
Yep, I can certainly do that. All right. So one of the most important things to do with your content is having a good hook. So as an example, you might put a hook for today's post being like, here's the 5 things I learned about the workshop. Here's the 5 things that made Tom so great and fantastic. So always think about the hook that you want to put in there. Hook, title, same with when you're doing email marketing, that first few lines is always so important. The next little bit is always the meat and the potatoes, and they're like what the post is really about. And as an example, like LinkedIn's only as good as you use it. It depends on how you're using it, right? I always like to do a recap. And if you have a very long piece of content, I might put in there TLDR, too long, didn't read. So as an example, complete your profile. Make sure you engage with other people. One of the most important things you can do. Create relevant content consistently and create content that's going to work for you and what you're about. If one day you're talking about marketing, the next day you're talking about health and fitness, the next day you're talking about something else, people might not know what you're about. Follow up with people, whether that's the comments or in your direct messages. Have fun. LinkedIn is a lot of fun, but you have to have, like, if you go on there just thinking grumpy and I don't want to be on here, it's going to be that much more of a challenge. If you think I really want to be on here and have fun, you will have a lot more fun with that. And that's an important reminder for myself today. So I'm glad I'm seeing that. And this is the last piece that you need to do. Sorry, the closing statement question or call to action. As an example, now that you've gone through the session, how do you feel? And that's the very last one. always so important to think about that. And this is my way of inviting you to ask more questions. And if I were to create that as a post, that's how I get people to comment. Leaving a good question, good open question like that.
Cool. Thank you so much, Tom. I think that is awesome. I've just popped our Facebook group in there. I might get you to join as well, Tom, and maybe upload a couple of slides or a bit of a question so everyone can get in there, have a bit of a chat, and it'd be really helpful for everyone to be inspired by LinkedIn.
Fantastic. It is a good platform. Like once you get out in there and start putting yourself out a little bit, I know how much it's done for me and some of the amazing people that I've met that have really made me feel good. And for me, honestly, doing this session today made me feel a lot better about myself and my business, and it's gotten me excited to create content again as well too.
Yeah, you definitely have a way to make people feel good. We both know what a state I was in this morning, so it's been awesome to hear lots of tips and tricks that I want to take away to myself for my own LinkedIn profile as well. You've inspired me to go and give it a bit of a zhuzh up.
It's good to do that on a regular basis, and there's so many features that are coming out right now too. There's a few people that I follow just to see the different features that are coming out, and it really is a good platform.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Tom. I think we are going to wrap up today. And Tom, just again, tell us your LinkedIn so we can all follow you, or pop it in the chat even.
I probably won't be able to pop it in the chat right now. Let's see if I can find myself really quick. Just bear with me for a minute.
Don't worry. But like I said, join our Oh, I have to say my internet connection is now unstable thanks to the cyclone.
So there is my LinkedIn account.
Fantastic.
Oh. And you'll have to ignore the face that's actually of my wife. I guess I'm using her Zoom account right now.
Oh, it's all good. Okay, Tom, thank you so much. And we will be sending, or you'll be able to watch this recording live again on digitalboost.co.nz. Oh, cool.
All right, perfect.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks for your help hosting today.
Bye.
Bye.